I developed a concept. I was invited to go to speak at the Longevity Summit in Dublin, and I developed a concept to present there, and it's called the Longevity Passport. In a way, for me, that was my contribution, my way of filling out the gaps, and because my formal study were in psychology and social behavior, I wanted to be able to create something that allows me to investigate more about the longevity ecosystem and specifically the people, right?
Hello, everyone, and I am back. And today I'm here with Francesca. And you probably remember Francesca from one of the first podcasts I ever did in Web3 Magic from, I think it was 2023. She was probably episode number 4 when I started again. And she was working at the ZKPass back then. A lot of things changed since then. And we got into, I would say, a little bit more interesting area, at least for like normal humans, because ZK is all, fancy, especially for nerds. But most of us basically, can't really prove the math. We only have to believe that it works the way everybody says it should work. And we all want it to work. And so, I wanted to do podcast with Francesca since she started getting close to pop-up cities and longevity stuff. But, it took us about a year to actually get together. So here we are. So Francesca, welcome.
I am so glad to be back here where it all started. And I remember I felt, so out of place tapping into the new space of ZK technology, right? I wasn't really exposed to this kind of high tech cryptography, and I remember the first event that I went to was ZK Summit in London. So imagine,
Okay.
just having a really, really full immersion into ZK technology. And it was great, honestly. I've learned a lot, and I think the one of the most important aspect, I think, is you find yourself uncomfortable sometimes with these great minds and studying cryptography and explaining multi-party computation and algorithms and so on and so on. And I think that I would suggest everyone to take a even if they are not well versed in the technology, to go to these kinds of conferences. The ZK Summit conference might be a very high tech space, but here and there I was able to understand at least the concepts of how ZK is implemented, and that helped me a lot to be ahead of the curve and understand how we can focus more on privacy and then eventually implement decentralized technology with what we are seeing now, the boom of AI, which is extremely important, right? How do we verify data that is legit data, high quality data, but also how do we keep our identity safe, secure, and collect credentials? There are different concepts that ZK technology really allows us to put into focus. And then you can apply this concept through any sort of niche that you find in this space. So decentralized digital identity, right? Collective credentials. So, verify your action and your contribution on chain. And then as well, being able to prove something that doesn't reveal all the information, but still verified that you have achieved something, or that you, your identity, your address, your, bank account, whatever it is that you want to verify, proof of everything, right? I was coming up yesterday with a concept, and I put proof of contribution. So really, you can design, you can create and learn how to implement zero knowledge proof in so many different aspects. And of course, this is that conceptual level, and then you have to pass those conceptual levels to the devs, and the devs have to figure it out how to make it all work. So that is always that that bridge that a lot of time from you ideating this concept and use cases, and then the devs actually having to put it into practice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I think we can definitely park the technical aspects of ZK for now, because I think we all sort of want the world where you can prove things once and reuse it without exposing everything every single time somebody's asking about stuff. And it's definitely, even more true in like health related stuff, probably more in health than, in your like ID or banking information, simply because
100%.
you can always
Right.
change your bank, but it's really hard to change, your health data. So
Right.
definitely
Exactly.
yes. So let's go back at the beginning and tell me how it all started. So I remember we chatted before you went to the Vitalia, which was the pop-up city, which happened, I think it was last year,
Yeah.
autumn-ish, something.
Yeah. Last in
So
January. Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about that, because we wanted to do podcast from there. It didn't happen.
Right. The pop-up cities. The pop-up city, I think, have changed everything in our network. We have changed the way that we gathered. And I learned about this initiative when I went to Hate Milan, and then I was able to meet some of the crew from Zuzalu at ZuConnect in Istanbul, and where we did a brief presentation on how to verify your identity within communities. And then from there, I applied and I was accepted to go to Vitalia. And I stayed there for almost 2 months. And while there, I proposed a couple of studies, and I really wanted to connect and go back to potentially do some research assisting, and and also with the focus of creating potentially use cases for digital identity and privacy for within the pop-up cities theme. And that didn't really go through, and so more and more I got immersed into the Brian Johnson, Aubrey de Grey, the immortalist agenda, transhumanist agenda, these words that a lot of times have a lot of backlash. Some people might feel very also uncomfortable to identify themselves as transhumanist, immortalist, or so on and so on. But more and more, these concepts just attracted me to wanting to engage more with the community and understand how can the longevity and health wellness field connect and leverage the tech, decentralized tech, and allow us to, either way, speed up the process or enhance the process of research. And the focus in all of this was always data, right? In terms of, I see ZKPass allowed me to understand the power of data. And it was always under my face, but it never really came into focus until I understood the process and saw and saw how our data was used, and how clueless also we are about how our data is used. One of the biggest trips now is like learning, reading the terms and condition. I don't read all of them. I let ChatGPT read all of them and then get me the main points. But I think it's super important. An app came out from the Meta group. It's called Thread, and Thread has a horrible terms and condition. I mean, if you read those terms and condition, you'll be like, what? It even tracks your spatial environment while you're using the app. So, these type of things is super important. And, briefly, before we continue into the pop-up city rabbit hole, this stuff is super important because, users, when they see that kind of terms and condition on how the data is being utilized, they should just boycott that platform and say, hey, this is not something that is proper for us, and we're just are not gonna utilize it. But unfortunately, one of the biggest error that we do is just, we click and we set up the account, and then once we're set up an account, we really don't look. We go and look at the terms and condition, and we are clueless of how our data is utilized. But what if we implement decentralized technology, which were there not only to create cryptocurrency, but to really leverage the data management infrastructure. So to give back the power to the community and being able to create the data economy. Going back to the point of our, health and longevity, that I immersed myself during the pop-up cities, learned, how data is being collected through clinical trials. And what is the importance of the data for biohackers, for example, how we can utilize wearables to collect this data and then after create a platform, a dashboard that allows us to visualize this data. Through all these processes, we're going to need a sort of security, infrastructure that allows for, easy and private sharing. And of course, we want to incentivize users to give their data away, but being informed, right? So showing users that they can leverage their data, and by leveraging their data, they understand the power of the data economy because they get incentivized that they understand how their data is used, but also they feel like they are contributing. They're active contributor, not only to for receiving incentives, but also potentially for scientific research. And I thought that was, it made me feel just very excited of the potential of redesigning how we look at our health data or our wearable day-to-day data collection, and imagine to remove the middleman or those gatekeepers where we kind of always see scientists and clinical trials kind of separate from us, right? I was just on the space yesterday. We were discussing AI, and there was this, pretty well-known research scientist, that comes from a very well-known university and has worked with Visa, has worked with Google, and so on and so on. And I was just thinking, if it wasn't for Web3, I would probably never be talking to this guy, right? Our world would have never crossed. But because of this bridge, because of this infrastructure, because of this, perception of idea also of interdisciplinary collaboration that we've seen as well in Pop-Up City, this process is being supported and accelerated. And, when we come together from different work lives and from different experiences, there is friction a lot of times because, you're a scientist. I am, from the from the school of hard knocks. I'm like, somewhere in the middle ground, and in your perception, your filters are different. But then when you start understanding every person's perspective, you grow, and you grow very quickly. Then this is the uniqueness about the pop-up cities, is that it gives you the possibility to accelerate your skills, your understanding, your perception in a way that no other conference, no other gathering will do. And so this is the beauty of it. Yeah. What do you think about that?
So if I remember correctly, you've been to more than one pop-up city last year, right?
Yeah. I have a friend of mine that almost went through the whole. I mean, you can take a world tour, and every month you can be part of a different pop-up city at this point.
I definitely believe that. So which one was your favorite?
Well, I mean, Vitalia hits the spot in a different way. It was, it was first of its kind. And I think if you get the chance to go to a pop-up city that just started, that it just launched, might be new. Right. There are pop-up cities that there is a new one, for example, that is happening in Ghana for this year. So if you can get and go to a pop-up city that is just starting in one location, I will highly recommend to go to the first edition because it's just you get to do the groundwork, and you're there when the groundwork is happening. And I think it's great to be present for that experience. And then so Vitalia is definitely one. It was also I was in at the Arc in Lisbon, And that was great because, it gave us the possibility to gather with people that we already knew in our network from the Vitalia crew and a few others, and to come back and meet each other again in a more cozy environment, so smaller group. And we had a beautiful venue. It was in a German embassy in Lisbon, and in completely different setting, right? So you're able to if you travel with bit of with your group, or with a closer group within these pop-up cities, you're able to just experience yourself and in different locations of the planet, and get to interact with the same people. And I think also that's super great. Unfortunately, I didn't go to Thailand during the pop-up cities, and I heard that it was really, 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 really a super fun 2 months, 1 month. There are several activation happen during that time, and yeah, but that's pretty much the two of them that really hit the spot for me. Vitalia and
Okay.
Art.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to go to Thailand as well. So,
Too, right? Major fun.
tell me about your journey to, Aura, Sai, and Avinasi, because I think it's all somehow connected with Vitalia.
Yeah.
And then we will, check on your plans for 2025, of course.
Awesome. Yeah. So I met Eva, the co-founder of AuraSci at Vitalia, and we actually didn't stay in connection, but then met again at the Zoo Castle at ETC during the meeting with the Zuzulu community, and beautiful venue. And then from there, we just started reconnecting and doing a call from time to time. And I expressed to her the desire that I had to work more, dedicate myself to the DeSci space, decentralized science, and longevity. And also what I was working, different use cases that I was working on the side. From there, we stayed in touch, and then I started to, a couple of things happened. One is I developed a concept. I was invited to go to speak at the Longevity Summit in Dublin, and I developed a concept to present there, and it's called the Longevity Passport. In a way, for me, that was my contribution, my way of filling out the gaps with a onboarding tool, decentralized onboarding tool that allows us to create digital, decentralized digital identity. And because my formal study were in psychology and social behavior, I wanted to be able to create something that allows me to investigate more about the longevity ecosystem, and specifically the people, right? The members, the people that are active in this field, and that in somehow they contribute to this field. And I'm preparing a blog that I will share probably Sunday. It's called 50 Shades of Longevity. And the reason why I'm going to go back to the story, but the reason why I'm creating it is because, from lifestyle intervention to gene therapy, cryonics, and whatnot, there are so many different ways that people look at longevity and, in general, the concept. And there is no wrong way to look at it. But if you are really into the field, then you think, oh, the lifestyle changes, kind of like the Brian Johnson and so on and so on, they will not solve the issue of lifespan extension, right? And then on the other side, people might be like, oh, thinking about gene therapy and cryonics and all that kind of stuff might be too much for them to handle yet, or the concept, it might be too invasive for them, and so they see as something too far away. But in reality, they're all in the same spectrum, and everything really makes up of longevity. So going back to presenting at the Longevity Summit, this tool, it was a way to create a neutral tool, onboarding tool, that allows to be an umbrella where everybody from different spectrums can kind of feel like they're a part member of this community. And their activity, from contribution of even attending certain events and pick up credentials, to submitting a abstract, doing a research, or so on and so on. So the idea was also for me, since I'm not a researcher and scientist, to utilize this tool and to investigate on why people believe, perhaps, so through a series of questionnaire, why people believe what they believe about longevity. What are the roadblocks? Why people think that living forever is not possible? Why people think that expanding and extending lifespan is you playing with God? What if there would be intervention or perhaps encounters of different minds that might make you think differently? Does it come from your, how you were raised, your prescribed culture, or perhaps, there is something else that is blocking for you from the the possibility of seeing this humanity achieve this goal? What is it? I was just very intrigued. I'm intrigued in general to understand why people do what they do. So through this tool, I wanted to have a place where we could also utilize to investigate and learn a little bit more about the beliefs and personality of the members within this ecosystem, and utilize it for advocacy, because it's a major aspect, I think, that we need to focus on when it comes to longevity, is to tell the story that might make people see this field in a different way. Going back to Eva, afterwards, after I did my presentation, I started collaborating with the AuraSci team to do the DeSci report, which is, was a great way to learn more about the DeSci ecosystem, and start collaborating with the AuraSci team. From collaborating with the team for a couple of times, then Eva introduced me to Winnie, the co-founder of Everything Good. I'm keep going.
Yeah, please keep going, because I'm just trying to find something which I wanted to talk about. You're good.
Back to the present time. And then after I actually when Eva introduced me to Winnie, I was at Limino Village in Italy, and we had about 3 different interviews, and I was extremely interested about the project that Avinasi Labs was launching, because it practically included all the technologies, ZK, data, health data, wearables, all the different, working with scientists, researchers, working with builders, all of them together into one package. And that's kind of like how we got started. And now it's about a couple of months, really 1 month, that I then flew here in San Francisco. This is kind of like the headquarters of Avinasi Labs and Paramita VC, which is a VC that focuses on also investing in longevity and DeSci projects. And it's pretty cool. I never thought I would be back in Northern California, since I'm originally grew up in California. And it was really nice to find myself. Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles. And so it was really nice after a few years since the pandemic to come back to California. But now, being here in the north and be so close, right? Where I'm in San Carlos, and we are in between like Silicon Valley and San Francisco, in the middle of it all. So it's very exciting to be here. There are so many events, so much stuff happening. If you want to kind of dive into the community, of course, most of us are from the computer most of the time, but there are some really cool events that I was able to participate. And there is a nice atmosphere of very, very exciting. Unfortunately, in Italy, I don't get the same feeling. It's very more mellow, relaxed. Everything moves super slow. So it's great to get a little bit of both once in a while.
That definitely, I think, is true pretty much about whole Europe. That it doesn't get the same
Yeah.
vibe as US. So yeah, we will basically have to work on it really hard, I guess, when you come back. So what are you
Yeah.
working on now? And what's the plan for like first quarter 2025? Are you staying in, in Silicon Valley, or are you traveling to some pop-up village? Are you working on the research or more practical things?
So too exciting. Well, I am mainly right now working on our product launch and event in Denver. It was interesting because you might not see right away that in Denver is a good place and spot to meet a bunch of scientists and researchers on longevity. But actually, you'll be surprised because we often, with our Web3 group, we go to a place, well, we are a bit in our bubble and we don't usually interact much with the local community. But because of, the research, science, academia, longevity theme and community that now I'm in, it forces me to, reach outside of our, usual group. And actually, I learned that around the area of Denver, it's full of longevity clinics. And some of the top, longevity doctors and researchers are actually located in Denver. So it was great because we are creating this series of events. We're bringing DeSci longevity tech to Denver, and we are bringing, Web3 builders, AI builders, researchers, scientists, all mingle up in one place. Harvard, MIT, Stanford, all different groups. I'm not sure exactly how sometimes things mingle together. I also connected yesterday with Amelia. I don't know if you guys, this is a secret. We don't know exactly if it's going to happen. Amelia, I met her at ECC, and she started this really, really cool, fun project that is connecting soulmates. And soulmates can be anything, friends.
Soulmates,
Yeah,
of
right.
course. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
definitely reach out to her because that's a great story. And I love how she's building that really from, the need of connecting and utilize technology. I really love the project that she's working on. So I reach out to her.
Making a note about that.
Yeah. And I was like, Amelia, I have this group. So, scientists, Web3 people, how can I just bring a little bit of spice into the mix, right? Because otherwise we're there, we meet, we have the conference. Yes, interesting topics we discuss, but we also want to, experience connection, feeling. And so I'm trying to introduce a bit of Web3 creativity into the mix and utilize, a mix of Web2, Web3 sentiment to create a sort of experience where potentially attendees will be able to connect on a different level. So stand by to figure it out in next episode to let you know how that experiment went by.
How
And I was
that
like,
worked out.
right? I'm also like, how am I going to explain a bunch of scientists, researchers, and MDs, right? I'm like, hey, now we're going to play a game and it's going to be like soulmate connections. And I was like, this is going to be really, really bad or really good. So we'll see what happens. And if we're able to make it happen, I will let you know after in Denver. But that was the idea. The idea is to, taking from the pop-up city, create this container where in these beautiful settings that will be the Denver Art Museum, and being able to bring this eclectic group of amazing people together, and then perhaps create a little bit of more experiential initiatives to be able to connect also at a different level. And connection data shows that is one of the number one variable that allows for people to live longer. So it all makes sense.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Maybe, the Soulmates is going to be the most longevity focused project after all.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I also asked her if she could help me get a date since it doesn't always
Sure.
um, go well in this space, because most of the time you're working, and then you're working with your colleagues, and that I found it always difficult to come together. It's, I know, I mean, no disrespect, but I think it would be super difficult to date a normie.
When you say it like that,
How do I
probably
explain
it's
to
going
them?
super difficult.
It
Oh,
is like, they're like basic concept, right? That I realized, to me now they're super normal on a day-to-day basis. And then I've like explained it to other people, and they're like, wait a minute, what is that you do? Why? And it becomes really complex. And it would be very difficult.
yeah, I can totally see it how it goes down in a bar. Hey, how are you? Hey, are you into crypto? What? Oh, so you are normie. Ciao.
Yeah, so most of the
Yeah,
time is, them turned off by this, like, oh, crypto, and then now she's a transhumanist, and it's like, oh gosh, like some people are, that's why it's a unique experience to work in the field. And I think in a way it becomes addicting, but also there is, yes, it's beautiful, but there is a lot of, stress, is difficulty. We're always connecting, because I don't want to romanticize the whole process. As you know, there are always um, uh, conflict sometimes, and understanding how, there is no path, that you have to create the path, and you just have to make it as you go, and you have like, here you got 7 days, make this happen. And so sometimes it's very difficult, because you constantly have to push yourself out of the box. And our community, I think, is so talented, that it pushes you constantly to be a better version of yourself.
right. So now it popped into my mind. Soulmates is obviously like a very generous topic on you can attack it from
Yeah,
any angle,
sorry.
but we are leaving that one behind.
Okay.
We'll talk about it after you guys do some,
I
scientists and
feel
nerd
we need
dating on
a round
is
table of
then
this, honestly. Could be a spicy topic. Have you ever
probably,
done round
yeah, that would be
tables?
probably the. So I did it in real life, not on a
Okay.
podcast, but we can definitely do it. It's totally doable. It's no
Yeah.
problem.
I like both the idea
Um,
of doing RRL and live.
so now probably a little bit tricky question. So there is a lot of people, I think, for years now excited about DeSci, basically decentralized science, decentralized research, longevity, health data, whatever. I remember 2021, I was minting some NFTs for like, DNA storage data and analysis. And most of the projects basically died. And I don't really see like a huge money inflow into DeSci. So I'm wondering why do you think that is? Because if you talk to most VCs, they will tell you there are no exits, so there is nothing to be found in decentralized science. Yet, basically, healthcare is one of the biggest industries we have on Earth, especially in US. So it's kind of contradictory. So
Yeah.
what is your take on this one?
Great question. And by the way, I always I've been trying to bring in some new VCs. In fact, one of the events that we're going to throw at Denver, I wanted to bring DeSci longevity tech into the rooms that has not been there before, right? So it can be really good, or it can go really bad. But I wanted to mingle new VCs in media and builders that I haven't been exposed to this theme together. And I think that's the
Perfect.
most impact that we could have, right? Is how do we explain the crowd that it might be skeptic about this field, what we have been doing behind the scenes. And for OGs that have been going through the process of seeing the crypto rise and fall, we know one thing, that that at the beginning of this process, we're gonna deal with skepticism, and we're gonna deal with failures, and we're gonna deal with not knowing exactly how to, utilize what we have, perhaps to create the best use cases. But if we persist, then eventually we will get there, right? what I think there is a saying, it's like first they laugh at you, then and so on, and then they join you in a way. So I think that's you get the gist. That's where we're going. I always associate, and I just wrote a blog about this, how to become a DeSci founder. I associate the beginning of the DeSci world and niche to the beginning of Bitcoin, where you were a scammer. It doesn't go anywhere. It goes up and then it goes down, and everybody loses money, and it's like, oh, this is over, and then the pulsation comes back alive, and you're back in it. And this, I think, this is actually going to have a more of like a steady growth instead of these big jumps that we have seen with Bitcoin. There is a problem is that we're pushing to enter a very regulated area, and an area that also deals with people's health, right, and research and academia and institutions and regulations, right? But also this, here we have even a bigger responsibility, because there is people's health, people's well-being at risk. So it will take a little bit more time to on that part of the industry to be able to really create the infrastructure that allows us to scale. And that's why projects like AvinasiLabs is creating this AI native chain that allows to make a L2 that allows for so many different data points to be placed on chain, and focus only on bringing in through AI, also creating insights that focus on longevity research. And that is just brief parenthesis, because Avinasi Labs utilize Clockbase, which is practically a model that has inside all the different biological aging clocks. The aging clocks, briefly, are way methods that allows us to understand how we age, how fast we age, through testing different types of biomarkers, right? So, but we need more data to feed these biological clocks to understand how we can, how reliable these clocks are, so that we can test different therapies with these clocks. That, if you understand, if hopefully I was able to explain well. So we have the data coming in, the biological clocks, and then the therapies, longevity therapies, and we test these longevity therapies against these biological aging clocks, so we can assess, we can understand how fast are we aging, or by doing different integrations and different types of therapies, if we're able to slow down that process. So going back to what I was mentioning, is this industry is at the beginning. We're literally, I think this, just this year, we really saw a big boom of the industry during the pop-up cities in Thailand, when we saw these big, leaders like Balaji, Vitalik, Brian Johnson coming together and bringing, attention, and CZ, right? And bringing attention to the decentralized science community. So this is the perfect time to get involved. Yes, the liquidity, yes, the tokens, our performance are not great, and that's okay. But what do we know then when the token performance on the market is not working, it's not going well? We know that if we keep building better solutions, then eventually we'll get there, and people will start utilizing this infrastructure and see the value in it, and then slowly will bring liquidity. We'll be able to create better products. It takes longer time, to create products through research, but it's happening. I think that, if you're new to this space, the best examples that we can have, so that you can understand, there are two ways. And I like, if I'll share the blog with you, maybe you can tell me what you think. There are two ways, mainly in the DeSci space, right? Through creating your BioDAO, and to creating community BioDAOs that have a sort of infrastructure, and then creating community initiatives like AuraSci that supports and help the industry to grow and to, evangelize and advocate for this community. and also provides grants and initiatives like IRL to bring people together. So if you check bioprotocol, for example, you will see, I call it the mother of DAOs or bio-DAOs, because it's literally giving birth through so many different DAOs. We have kidney DAOs that just was born recently, quantum biology DAO, right? All these different DAOs that are set to change that niche. And each one of these DAOs have a token, and they share the token, and the token allows to raise funds, and then the community votes to do certain intervention, to do certain research, or create specific products. Beta DAO, I think, is one of the molecule. Beta DAO is one of the tops that people can really see how this process has been applied. And I think liquidity is going to come in, I am actively always exposing this field to more VCs, and I'm really confident because I've been through the process of skepticism with Bitcoin, and I'm not going to let the initial discomfort or not understanding exactly how this is coming together fool me again, because this is sad. There is so much investment really coming in, and desire to change this industry, and the need, honestly, because healthcare system must change. This, we're pushing so much, and look already, we see in the headlines with Sam Altman, bringing longevity, and it's gonna accelerate this process. Anthropic CEO talking about longevity as well. More and more, we're gonna start seeing big tech companies bringing the attention on longevity tech, and that brings us back to data ownership and data economy, and eventually to be able to have the individual be the contributor and informed contributor into the space, and eventually being able to leverage that data contribution to understand better your health and get better therapies.
Yeah, I think, so funding aside, the onboarding of normal people, or let's say wider range of people, is going to be tough, because it's like everything is going to be about sort of how easy it is, how safe it is, and how you can make it relatively painless. So I always thought, because I used to work for pharma, like big pharma, I always thought that for DeSci to sort of accelerate forward, the best way would be basically onboard a couple of organizations which already have access to patients and the data, and basically just go through the whole, approval and consent process, but do it in scale. Because I'm afraid that, if we will try to onboard people through deep in things which will collect the data, or, individual hospitals or doctors, it will basically take 100 years. And we will still not be at the level where it needs to be if it's supposed to have any impact. But then, I'm relatively far away from the space, because the space was really quiet in the past 2 years. It sort of exploded last year towards the end. And, that's why we are talking now.
Sorry, I was trying to change a little bit my my next call. But yeah, I totally understand. And this is the issue, right? It's like you need to meet people where they are. And so you have to give an entry door for people where they are. If people want meme coins and tokens and liquidity, you have to be able to provide that. If people want good research and talent and being able to collaborate with institutions, you need to provide that. If people want to see good infrastructure with privacy preserving tools and decentralized storage, decentralized AI, and all of that, you need to provide that, right? So now you already have three different, you got the degens, you got the builders, and you have the researchers and institutions. Those are different entries, and this is one of the most difficulty aspect of the decentralized science and longevity tech, because you're really putting together people from so many different spectrums, from different niches, and each one of them wants to get something out of it. And it takes time to really bring to life all these different aspects and being able to fulfill the needs of everyone else, every niche.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I guess it's fair to say that decentralized science has it, especially around healthcare, has it a little bit more difficult, because in DeFi it's a little bit simpler. You basically just onboard people on
100%.
the sort of money
100%.
curve and Moneyball stuff. So yeah, totally agree. But I'm
Another,
definitely looking forward to seeing some projects which are worth. Go ahead. Sorry.
for sure. Also, like another, this is not a decentralized platform. I don't know if they have the intention to, integrate the decentralized tools on it, Superpower, but it does have an integration with AI. So Superpower is a platform that just recently was launched, pretty new, I think, a couple of years. And the founder story is amazing. If you get the chance, I'll send you his talk at Stanford, and it's great because it really redesigns the concept of collecting your blood test, which is a lot of times and just to show you how a tech infrastructure can allows you to change the mindset of a behavior. So most of us might think, oh, I'm not doing my blood test, my routine blood test. I don't need to do them, right? When was the last time you did your blood test? Put you on the spot now.
Probably last year,
Okay, so that's good. That's not far off. But I
actually.
asked this
Yeah.
question to some people, and they're like, if I feel good, I don't need to do a blood test. Wrong, right? So platforms like Superpower allows you to keep a rhythm, and that allows you to stay informed about your health, because you might have the perception that everything is good. In reality, you don't fully understand what's happening to your bodies. By having over 100 to 120 different biomarkers all in one platform that you can test for and understand the synergy between the different biomarkers, and understanding also how your biological age is affected by it, you start understanding that perhaps certain behaviors and lifestyle in the lifestyle that you have is not really, the data is showing that you actually are not really taking care of yourself, or that you need to make some changes. And so this is the power of taking this, what we think that might not be an issue, and utilize technology to give us a even better experience with our health, because now you have a full vision of 360 degrees of what's happening with you, and the a concept of doing a blood test every 6 months so that you can keep a consistent data and upgraded data about what's happening in your body. And I think this is, it's something that I wanted to create myself. So when I saw the concept being created and developed and really executed in such a great way, I was so excited to be able to sign up. So just
you
to bring
did
it back
sign up.
off
Okay.
with the project, I did sign up, waiting to to go to the lab, because then you have to go to an actual lab that they connect you to, and for $600 you do the test with 120 biomarkers, and then included in the session is a meeting with I think it was kind of like a coach or functional doctor or something that explains to you what are, helps you read those biomarkers and understand how perhaps if there are things that you should look at.
Okay.
And this is, they didn't go the decentralized way and add all the different aspects of it, because probably it's better entry. But imagine, a platform like that then integrating decentralized tech in it, and what allowed for data sharing. But for example, Avinasi Labs can connect with projects such as this one that collects data, blood tests in this case, and being able to plug it into their AI native chain, and being able to transfer that data and be able to test the biological clocks and utilize that data for research.
Right. Okay. That totally makes sense. And Yeah, so I see we're coming up to an hour. So, after cutting out some chit chat, it's going to be shorter. But I definitely want to give you a chance to sort of lay down the ground for people who might be interested in learning more about, decentralized science this year, let's say in the next quarter or two. So where would you send them? So I assume you would recommend to join you guys in East Denver, but is there anything happening before and what's happening after? Where would you send people to go and check things out?
For sure. Well, okay, so in Denver, if you are coming, please connect with us. Second of all, with AuraSci, so AuraSci on X, we always host great space. Every week we are, focused on different topics, different aspects, and bringing together the DeSci community, but also bringing in other builders from different niches, as well as scientists, researchers from Harvard, Stanford, MIT, and so on. And so you really get the chance, and we want to make sure, to have the possibility for everybody to ask questions. So we open the mic to the community, and I love who comes to these spaces because they have really interesting questions. And a lot of times people that connect to these spaces, they just bring really great points to the group. So I'll invite you to come and follow us, connect, join one of these spaces. There are also a lot of other spaces that are happening. DeSci Mike, for example, run by Erin, and she is doing this space every Wednesday, also talking different topics of DeSci. And so you really get the chance to meet the community on AMAs, X spaces, and then being able to maybe understand where you stand or what could interest you. Maybe you're interested in biotech, maybe you're interested in longevity, maybe you're interested in mental health, maybe kidney health is what interests you. Well, I think you will find your niche, and then just follow that community, learn what they're doing, and meet the founders IRL. I think that's super important. What's happening on the pop-up city scene is Vitalis Bay, right? Is the biggest, longevity event of the year. It's going to be 2 months in Berkeley, California. Awesome setup. The Longevity Biotech Fellowship also running a program. There are going to be speakers coming, the main vision leaders of this space between DeSci, pop-up cities and longevity, and they come together with the purpose of expediting, fast track towards longevity lifespan. And so, longevity field, accelerating the longevity field. This is really the number one core theme for this pop-up city that is very interesting. You will apply. If you apply, you will receive an interview, one-on-one in person, and then they will let you know if you can join the group and so on, which I like that approach, because sometimes we do need to really be specific with the people that we want around, because otherwise we cannot focus on acceleration. That and
sure. When is that happening, Fran?
That is happening beginning of April, and then it's running for 2 months. So April and May. Definitely keep an eye on this event, because it's going to be very unique, and we'll see. We're launching our product in Denver, so it will be very interesting to see the how is it received, and then we'll see also what happens with the whole IRL experience. Perhaps Amelia will join us.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the overview of the pop-up cities from last year, and basically overview of what's happening in decentralized science. I think it's a sector everybody should look at. Have a great day, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.